Queen Mary I. Born 1516, died 1558. Mary was the only child of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon to live past infancy. Crowned after the death of Edward VI and the removal of the 9 days Queen Lady Jane Grey, Mary is chiefly remembered for temporarily and violently returning England to Catholicism. Many prominent Protestants were executed for their beliefs, leading to the moniker Bloody Mary. Fearing the gallows, a further 800 Protestants left the country, unable to return until her death. Myra Hindley. Born 1942, died 2002. Myra Hindley and Ian Brady were responsible for the Moors murders, occurring in the Manchester area of Britain from 1963 to 1965. Together, these two monsters were responsible for the kidnapping, sexual abuse, torture, and murder of 3 children under the age of 12 and 2 teenagers, aged 16 and 17. A key found in Myra's possession led to incriminating evidence stored at a left luggage depot at Manchester Central Station. The evidence included a tape recording of one of the murder victims screaming as Hindley and Brady raped and tortured her. In the final days before incarceration, she developed a swagger and arrogant attitude that became her trademark. Police Secretary Sandra Wilkinson has never forgotten seeing Hindley and her mother Nellie leaning against the courthouse eating sweets. While the mother was obviously and understandably upset, Hindley seemed indifferent and uncaring of her situation. Isabella of Castile. Born 1451, died 1504. Isabella I of Spain, well known as the patron of Christopher Columbus, with her husband Ferdinand II of Aragon, are responsible for making possible the unification of Spain under their grandson Carlos I. As part of the drive for unification, Isabella appointed Tomás de Torquemada as the first Inquisitor General of the Inquisition. March 31, 1492 marks the implementation of the Alhambra Decree, expulsion edicts forcing the removal or conversion of Jews and Muslims. Roughly 200,000 people left Spain. Those remaining who chose conversion were subsequently persecuted by the Inquisition investigating Judaizing conversos. In 1974, Pope Paul VI opened her cause for beatification. This places her on the path toward possible sainthood. In the Catholic Church, she is thus titled Servant of God. Beverly Allitt. Born 1968. The Angel of Death. Beverly Gale Allitt is one of Britain's most well-known serial killers. Working as a pediatric nurse, she is responsible for the murder of 4 children and the serious injury of 5 others in her care. When available, insulin or potassium injections were used to precipitate cardiac arrest. Smothering sufficed when they were not. Although convicted with death or injury in 9 cases, Allitt attacked 13 children over a 58-day period before being caught red-handed. Allitt has never spoken of the motive for her crimes, but Munchausen syndrome by proxy explains her actions. This debatable personality disorder involves a pattern of abuse or harm to someone in your care in order to garner attention. Allitt was known as a child to wear bandages and casts over wounds, but would not allow them to be examined. Belle Gunness. Born 1859, died 1908. Belle Gunness was one of America's most degenerate and productive female serial killers. Standing 6 foot tall and weighing in at over 200 pounds. She was an imposing and powerful woman of Norwegian descent. It is likely that she killed both her husbands and all of her children at different times, but it is certain that she murdered most of her suitors, boyfriends, and her 2 daughters, Myrtle and Lucy. The motive was greed, pure and simple. Life insurance policies and assets stolen or swindled from her suitors became her source of income. Most reports put her death toll at more than 20 victims over several decades, with some claiming in excess of 100 people. Inconsistencies during her post-mortem examination. The corpse was reported to be 2 inches shorter than Belle's 6 feet. Marian Cotton. Born 1832, died 1873. Marian Cotton is another for-profit serial killer, predating Belle Gunness by 30 years. Married at age 20 to William Mowbray, the newlyweds settled in Plymouth, Devon, to start their family. The couple had 5 children, 4 of whom died of gastric fever and stomach pains. Moving back to the northeast, tragedy seemed to follow them. 3 more children born, 3 more children died. William soon followed his offspring, dying of an intestinal disorder in January 1865. British Prudential promptly paid a £35 dividend, and a pattern was established. Her second husband, George Ward, died of intestinal problems as well as one of her 2 remaining children. The power of the press, always a force to be reckoned with, caught up with Marian. The local newspapers discovered that as Marian moved around northern England, she lost 3 husbands, a lover, a friend, her mother, and a dozen children, all dying of stomach fever. She was hanged at Durham County Jail, March 24, 1873, for murder by arsenic poisoning. She died slowly, the hangman using too short a drop for a clean execution. Ilse Koch. Born 1906, died 1967. Die Hex von Buchenwald. The Witch of Buchenwald, or Buchenwalder Schlamp, the Bitch of Buchenwald was the wife of Karl Koch, commandant of the concentration camps Buchenwald from 1937 to 1941, and Majdanek from 1941 to 1943. Drunk on the absolute power rendered by her husband, she reveled in torture and obscenity. Infamous for her souvenirs, tattoos taken from the murdered inmates, her reputation for debauchery was well earned. After building an indoor sports arena in 1940, with 250,000 marks stolen from inmates, Ilse was promoted to Oberhofschärin, or chief overseer, of the few female guards at Buchenwald. She committed suicide by hanging herself at Achak Women's Prison on September 1, 1967. Irma Grese. Born 1923, died 1945. Another product of the Nazis' final solution, Irma Grese, or the Bitch of Belsen, was a guard at concentration camps Ravensbrück, Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. Transferred to Auschwitz in 1943, she was promoted to senior supervisor, the second highest ranking female in camp. By the end of the year, in charge of over 30,000 Jewish female prisoners, she reveled in her work. Her work included savaging of prisoners by her trained and half-starved dogs, sexual excesses, arbitrary shootings, sadistic beatings with a plated whip, and selecting prisoners for the gas chamber. She enjoyed both physical and emotional torture and habitually wore heavy boots and carried a pistol to facilitate both. Katherine Knight. Born 1955. The first Australian woman to be sentenced to a natural life term without parole, Katherine Knight had a history of violence in relationships. She mashed the dentures of one of her ex-husbands and slashed the throat of another husband's 8-week-old puppy before his eyes. A heated relationship with John Charles Thomas Price became public knowledge with an apprehended violence order that Price had filed against Knight, and ended with Knight stabbing Price to death with a butcher's knife. He had been stabbed at least 37 times, both front and back, with many of the wounds penetrating vital organs. She then skinned him and hung his suit from the door frame in the living room, cut off his head and put it in the soup pot, baked his buttocks, and prepared gravy and vegetables to accompany the roast. The meal and a vindictive note were set out for the children, luckily discovered by police before they arrived home. Elizabeth Bathory. Born 1560, died 1614. Elizabeth Bathory is considered the most infamous serial killer in Hungarian Slovak history. Rumors had circulated for years about missing peasant girls, offered well-paid work at the castle. They were never seen again. One of these rumors reached the ears of King Matthias II, who sent a party of men to the massive castle Sejthi. The men found one girl dead and one dying. Another was found wounded and others locked up. Described atrocities collected from testimony of witnesses include severe beatings over extended periods of time, the use of needles, burning or mutilation of hands, sometimes also of faces and genitalia, biting the flesh off the faces, arms and other bodily parts, and the starving of victims. The victim total is thought to number in the hundreds, occurring over a 25-year period. Due to her social status, she was never brought to trial but remained under house arrest in a single room until her death.